right. Larry, I'm just going to listen today. That's okay. Yeah, absolutely. No problem, Larry. Glad you're with us. And, so sorry to hear about your friend there. All right. Well, hopefully everybody is doing well and staying warm, and it has warmed up a little bit. So we're just topping out at 47 degrees today or something like that. A lot better than yesterday. James Nick says, have you used the cab block that I sent out? No, I haven't, James. I guess I should be more trusting, right? Oh, yes. Closed caption. Thank you. Let me get to that. Hold on one second. Nicole, thank you for reminding me. I appreciate it. To make center. And then caption. Then I'll get the recording going right after this. I'll catch up to you guys in a second. You guys are firing questions here. All right, let's see if that worked. I don't see it coming across yet. Okay, hold on. It does say closed caption, but I'm not seeing any closed caption yet.
It's on.
Okay.
Or at least on my end.
Usually I can see it on the bottom of my screen when I do it correctly, and for whatever reason it doesn't want to. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I have a huge distraction going on. All right. Well, maybe it's just, it has the box for it, but it's just not putting it in there. But I will start the recording and then let you know what is, didn't mean to do that. There we go. All right. Go back. I'll tell you what the distraction is in a minute. I don't know if you heard it in the background or not, but it's not a pretty sight. All right, I think we have the recording going. We have closed caption. Nicole said she can see the closed caption, so we must be good there. The recording is going. So again, welcome. Today, Wednesday the 28th, Wednesday landscape directing class. And I'll get to your comments in a second. I'll back up to about the blocks, James Meek in a second. I don't know if you heard that noise in the background. We seem to have a visitor today in the attic. And it seems to be, it sounds like to me, it is a squirrel. I told you about some rodent problems and trying to deal with that. I've caught some and been away with them, but this is the first time that we've had, I think, a squirrel in the attic. Okay. James says, remind my system finally accepted it. Okay, I'll get back to that in a second. So anyway, it's quite loud and it's right over across the office here, and it's, I don't know if it's stuck in one of the sticky traps. It doesn't sound like it the way it's running across, or if it's just can't find its way out, because you know, mice and rats, they usually don't scurry like that unless it's at nighttime, and they don't have the weight capacity this thing sounds like it has. So anyway, my wife is investigating a trap and started looking at maybe getting prices on rodent removal. So if you hear noise in the background, that's what's going on. It's either my wife chasing the squirrel or the squirrel chasing my wife. We'll go from there. All right, let's get back to the class here. Sorry, that has nothing to do with landscaping. Sorry about that. James McGinn's laughing. All right, thanks. And then James McGinn also had a cold face, so I'm freezing out where you were at, I guess, James. So yeah, so it's cold everywhere. At least we're not in Oklahoma where they are having storm, where my uncle is, and they had It was 27 degrees last night without the wind chill. Let's see. Let's back up here and back to James. Meek says, asked me about the cat block. So no, I haven't. The reason I kind of snickered on that was that I guess I should be more trusting. It was a link from Autodesk. So you would think that they check stuff out before they post the link. I came up with a thought that I might use the school computer and try the link and see if anything happens. So James Meek, have you tried it? Or has anybody tried that link for blocks that I sent out? That was actually.
It seems to be good. My finally accepted it. It just didn't like the. It just didn't like the website it came from.
Okay.
So once I downloaded it, it scanned it and it says, "Oh, okay, it's good."
Okay, so you have high security settings on your PC then, probably.
Yeah, McAfee likes to go through everything.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for letting me know that. That will be helpful for everybody. And I'm not sure if he's in class. Let me check. Yes, Kevin's in class, and Kevin actually came up with a question yesterday if I had any blocks. So for different landscaping things, I'm like, no, I don't. I'm really leery about going out there, and I haven't really investigated it. I usually have the class make a set of blocks. We haven't got far yet, so Kevin was kind of ahead on the program here. So I instantly texted my brother, landscape architect in California, and he said no, that he uses either makes his own or has shared with other landscape architects. He goes, but if you have some, you have a site, let me know. He would love, something free. That's what I was looking for.
The the discussion board that I looked at where the person was asking a similar question of where if there's any free blocks that they could get, and that's how I backed up like your post saying that you found it on there. Uh, it they said that the main problem is it sometimes is pirated from educational software. So you'll get so if you're trying to use it professionally, you'll get a watermark stamp
Okay.
on the drawing, but that's mainly what the person said was the hard part on that.
Okay. All right. And so if that does happen, no problem on that. With I understand the watermark, and maybe with and that's why they put the watermark, so it's on there. So if you are selling drawings or using for income, that will prevent that. Just like the TCC will have a watermark. I'm sorry, not TCC. Autodesk will have a watermark when you print out on their sheets. Sometimes on the sheets, especially working from home. Not so much at school, but if you started a file at home, a CAD file at home, and then we went, in class and you printed it out from there in class, it usually will have a watermark on the borders. So no problem on that. If you run into that and you want to use that, I won't have any problem on that as well. So the biggest thing I was concerned about was just viruses. So and then my brother said, "Hey, if you find something, send it my way." And so I sent him the link as well. I didn't hear back from him. I said, just it's from Autodesk, and I haven't tried it out. So James, thanks for that information. It looks like it's a clear site. I just, I've heard so many nightmare stories about downloading blocks from different sites, and people just have a love, I guess, or a passion of corrupting things, and I think it's just so funny. So, all right, so that's some good news. Great question. Let me come back to the discussion board here and rest of this week. James Mick says, well, it can't be downloaded securely by my computer. My security system hates it. Never mind, the system just accepted it. Okay, great, James. Thanks for that post on that. And so we will move forward this morning. I told you about the rodent problem. We talked about the blocks. What about yesterday? Anybody remember what we talked about yesterday? Anybody? No. It's kind of a dirty subject. Is that helping? You guys asleep out there? Soil, thanks, James Meek. Jesse, soil, yes. Talked about soil yesterday and some of the different components of soil and the importance of soil when considering planting. And a lot of you shared soil issues around your site there that we have. So, yep, a bunch of stuff with soil. So we're going to move ahead today, and we'll be talking about today. I forgot myself here. Let me that file. This rodent thing of plant selection. Mulch, that's what we're talking about. Within plant selection, we're talking about mulch today. Let's see, there were a couple things I wanted to throw out to this class. I made notes on it, I forgot yesterday. Make sure when you are getting the habit of all your CAD files to put at least your initials in the CAD file. I know I keep giving you additional things to make sure you have in your drawings, the way to send attendance and all that, requirements, but it's making it a lot easier when I look at something initially to know who it's from, and especially if I have a file open, a CAD file open, or numerous CAD files open, and then if you have your initials in it, I know exactly where to go to with that open. So in all your CAD files, all your DWG files, you can put your last name, first initial, last name, or just initials, will work well with me, except for the two Jameses. And so if you want to put your last name on there, that would really help. So that was one thing I wanted to mention, just make a habit. So, and that's one thing that's industry standard as well when you're working on files a lot of times. James Meek says, yeah, I'll put the whole name. Thanks, James. I appreciate that. A lot of times they'll have you put initials when you're working on a file. Either have you put your name in the revision title block. And all right, James again. All right, that sounds good. Got that sorted out. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. It helps an old guy like me. And a lot of times in the industry, if you may put your name in the title block as a revision, the person did a revision on that, or you may put it in the file that you're working on. You may put your initials in there. So a couple different ways to identify where the file came from or who last worked on it. All right, let's see. The other thing was, besides the initials in your DWG, I received a posting on an email. That worked out well. A posting on a job, and let me see if I can find that real quick. Oh, just great. It's not here. I wonder why that's not. Anyway, it was a job for. It was contract work. That's what it was. It was contract work, and I didn't receive back any details. I'd asked a few questions about it, kind of like what's the range of pay, what is the situation? Do you have to come in the office, or is it virtual, or they do a cloud-based? And I don't think I received anything back. Let me do a quick search here on my what comes up. And I apologize. I thought I had that in the inbox, but evidently, no, this is all the way back to, okay. Last week. Oh, here, this is it. No, that's the other thing. This is the thing I mentioned yesterday was from our vice president, the scholarship funding for entrepreneurship. So I mentioned that yesterday. I sent that email out, and there's contact information on that if you were thinking about starting a business. And this may be it right here. And I asked her, here's a couple questions that I asked, and it's from Ferris Design Group. which we have sent students there before. And in fact, she cites in the email one of the students that I had for quite a few semesters. Chris, he was been in quite a few of my classes, and he is very experienced. But anyway, he's working for them, and but they're looking for. Let me just read it. What it was about. Looking for additional freelance drafters. So Chris is a freelance drafter as well. He has had experience. He has a lot of the software at home. So that was another issue. I didn't even address that. Pay range I addressed, and then consider full-time, depends on the skill set. So range of pay was the big thing, and also the software, because she's under assumption, she may be under the assumption everybody's like Chris. Chris has bought Revit, and he's bought AutoCAD. He has both of those, and he's been running a business for some time. He just wanted to come back and start working on his degree. But anyway, they're looking for somebody, 99% Revit, custom homes. They occasionally use AutoCAD, design commercial projects for AutoCAD. The person would need to be able, I'll slow down here in a minute, need to be able to lay out floor plans, electrical slab plans from sketches. You guys love that word, sketching, I just know. Using our standards. Okay, they'd be able to make simple changes without breaking the model. The existing, add to a type of existing family plans, family single-story houses, willing to review their own work, and they'd be willing to use their time to improve their skills in order to increase their compensation. So they have probably a dollar amount set. She didn't get back to me that I've seen, and so that was one of the questions of compensation. You know, what's the compensation like? I don't know if I insulted her by asking. I wouldn't think so. Let's see. Just do a quick search here and see what comes up. And 1024. So that was the same email. So she did not respond back to that email. So anyway, long story short, sorry for going on. But if you're interested in something like that, let me know. If you have all 3 classes of Revit, completed all 3 classes of Revit, that would be really a good thing. If you did Revit 1 and Revit 2, that might still work as well, but they have the concentration in Revit software. So if you're interested in something like that, send me your resume, or yeah, that's the best thing. Emailing me your resume, and I will start the connection with her. And then if she doesn't answer all the other questions that I had and the other additional questions I'm thinking of now, I will let you handle that and just talking to her. But that's usually the way we do it with job postings. When they come in, I'll announce to either a specific group of students, or this is obviously you guys are advanced students, and would have a lot of the software under your belt already. So that's why it would be specifically to you. I wouldn't announce this to our intro classes, because they would have not had Revit yet. All right, so that was the job opening. That was the second thing, and the only other thing that I wanted to discuss. So going back from Monday and Tuesday of this week, any questions? In the chat, let me see what's going on. Let's see, James. That Iman, what are you talking about that doesn't download? That was the Iman, the link that I sent out yesterday. I emailed a link for blocks, for landscape blocks that may not download depending on your security settings for that. And James Meek has downloaded it, got past his security settings, and he said the blocks are good to go. His security settings did not pick up any virus detection, which James, I thank you again for stepping out there and doing that. Appreciate that. So Iman, that's what we were talking about on that. All right. Anything else? All right. She says okay. All right. Any other questions from last couple days? As I mentioned yesterday, I mentioned Friday, Thursday or Monday would be final project reveal. That will be on Monday. We'll talk about the final project that we will be working on the rest of the semester, along with other assignments. Of course, we still have to do irrigation, cost analysis, and detail drawings and a couple other sheets that we still have to work through that you're going to apply to your front yard site. But this final project will be all-encompassing everything that we have talked about so far and everything moving forward that we will talk about that you'll incorporate into the final project. I'm working out the final details on that as we speak. All right, I don't see any other questions. We'll go ahead and rock and roll ahead. So today we're going to talk about mulch. This is a very important part of landscaping. Very important here, especially in Texas, with the amount of moisture that evaporates through the summer months. It also is helpful in winter months in keeping the root system protected from frost, and the also is good in controlling weeds. Mulch comes in different varieties of colors, as you can see, and we'll talk about a little more about that as we move through this. So we'll define mulch as entirely made of organic material, wood, tree bark, wood chips, pine straw, grass, etc. Also, if you look down through this verbiage, they have rubber. Wouldn't recommend that just because of oil-based, and especially if you're doing with any kind of organic gardening, that would not be able to have in there. So, and I'll also refer to, I should have some information in here on ground cloth as well, and they do also make a rubber ground cloth or a product that's oil based that I would not recommend either. So that's just my my opinion on something like that. So we have the different mulches that's going to primarily made up of these organic materials. And what they do is taking mulch, and I apologize again. I think there was a video for you, and sleep of the wheel, right? That squirrel just threw my morning off completely. So I believe I had a video set up for you. Go to slideshow. And yep, there we go. And not much. Gonna be one of those days, huh? Let's see what we'll watch. All right, it's not a video, it's verbiage. Can you guys see the Gaston Mulch and Soil LLC page? That? Can anybody see it? Or what are you seeing? What are you seeing now? Back and forth. Okay, just the PowerPoint. Okay, thanks. All right, thank you guys. All right, Iman, thank you. Let me stop sharing this and go back to sharing application and screen. All right, so this is not a video, it's just some information here, and this is available to you as well if you want to look more into how mulch is made, what mulch is made of, and the different types of mulches that are made. So as we get into the components of this, you can see leaf, bark, wood chips, composting even, Now here we get again to the rubber mulch as well. So they can excuse me, can use this in a playground area. So you're not growing anything organically, such as the vegetable garden. So in this application, that probably would not be too bad in the use for landscaping projects like playground, because it is a softer material. So the downside of rubber mulch is not organic and offers no nutrients. It's going to be a really long day for the soil. Nutrients, there we go. Finally, can get it out. Nutrients for the soil. So with that said, some of the compost mulching material will offer some nutrients. On the flip side, when you use a colored mulch, which they use a dye in it for most of the colored mulch, then you have the dye issue as well. Now, I went to a cedar mulch, and I keep forgetting to bring up some photos of our. I ran across photos. I was looking for some other photos for another project. But I took some photos of our garden when the little seedlings, my white seedlings in there with strawberry. Hey, it's gonna be a long day with the tomato cages around it, and then I think I took some those pictures and then some after pictures when they were in fully grown. And then I have a set of and in those planter beds, the raised planter beds, and I also have a planter bed that's along the fence that's not raised. I used a cedar mulch, which is all natural. It's not colored or anything, because all those vegetables, the tomatoes, all the vegetables, and the basil, I had basil in there as well, we're using for consumption, and we didn't want to contaminate it. We wanted it very organic with that. So just be aware of that. There are applications for the rubber mulch, just probably not around where something you're going to eat. And I don't think it's the greatest for just landscape plants in general, but for playgrounds that would be okay. This gets into where the company mulch from. So if you want to look more into this, they have a bunch of information for you on that. All right. Back to home here, and get back to our okay. So within that, we have mulch and where it's made. Let's talk about where it's used at. And interesting. All right. What is mulch used for? So we talked a little about in the very first slide about retention of moisture. It's also good for weed control. Keeps the soil a lot cooler, except like 10 degrees cooler. That was a stat that I read. I've never taken the temperature with mulch and without mulch in the summertime, but it does keep it cooler. It keeps from evaporation, and then it says it also prevents heaving in the wintertime. So we have different types of soil going to react differently. With clay soil with less moisture, it's going to do contraction, of course, and more moisture in clay will do expansion. And that's why out here we have a great system of rebar, what I consider a great system of rebar that's put into the houses compared to California. The soil also helps improve the soil structure, drainage, and nutrient holding capacity and as they decompose. All right. So mulches are going to be used for the beds. So here we have a wide variety of mulches and applications. Now, as we go through this, I think I have some information on how to properly mulch around a tree, which is not, according to some information I've seen, is not the proper way to mulch around a tree. The proper way is to make, just not to cover all the way up to the trunk of the tree, but we maybe get into that a little bit later. So that's one thing to watch out for. The other thing, here we have the wheat cloth that's put down, and there again is made in fabric, different materials. One is a fabric base, and another one is, it can be a plastic base, and different degrees of how porous they are, so how much water is going to run through them. They all should be porous because you still have good drainage on them. I planted a tree in California, this repo house that we bought, and so I didn't have any trees around. Well, I didn't have any trees, and supposedly from what the neighbors that had witnessed the repossession of this house, it was beautifully landscaped at one point. And I don't know if I mentioned to you, but they stripped everything when we bought from this repo house. I mean, it had a pool that was probably as green as the ribbon at the bottom down here of this slide. It was partially, filled in. They messed up the pool pump. They took the grates off the stove. They left the stove, took the grates off, and they took the registers, the heating and air conditioning registers out of the wall ceilings. They took plugs out. They even took out a French door that was in there. They left the all the way down. They took the casing and everything. This house was just stripped. Also, they took we were told these beautiful palms that lined the fence line by the pool area. And so I replaced them with palms and such. But anyway, I was putting a tree out towards the center of the yard because there was none out there. And this tree started growing, doing great. And, it was pretty warm out there, just pretty warm. And I was watering it on a regular basis. And all of a sudden, it just didn't do well for about 2 seasons. And then it started dying. I mean, the thing was only about 6 foot tall. And they're supposed to get to 25 foot tall, I think, and 15 foot span or something like that. And I even forgot what type it was. But anyway, long story short on it, I was watering it properly, but what was happening, the clay soil down at the bottom was acting as a bowl. And it just held all this water because it was so saturated. It held all this water in, wouldn't drain off, so it got root rot. And when I pulled that thing out, I mean, it smelled like a sewer. So you have to be really careful. Not only the above ground, how you're treating it, retaining soil, but what the below ground as well. And you can have proper drainage even with clay, but you just have to do a better preparation for that. They also, I've installed a couple of deep watering systems for trees as well. So you don't, I don't know if you know this, but as the tree grows, you don't continue to water right at the root ball where the root ball is at, but you start watering out further and further. Now, a lot of times here in Texas, as well as California, they'll have a parkway. I'm not sure what they have going on here in the bottom right, but a parkway is just basically a strip between the curb and the sidewalk. And this could be the curb here. It kind of looks like another sidewalk. But anyway, so that's typically what a parkway is. Well, these parkways are typically a little more narrow than that, and we have one right out here. We have this live oak, silver oak out there in the parkway, and that thing is going to be so big, and it's eventually going to bust up the driveway or the sidewalk and the curb eventually. I mean, it's probably 15, 20 feet tall now. I try to keep it trimmed back. It's out into the street, of course, and many places have that. But to avoid the root system from breaking up concrete in a tight area like that, you can put in deep root watering. Basically what that is just a PVC pipe that's put in at about 45-degree angle that's going to be out here somewhere. I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see my cursor. And that will be placed out here at the early stages. Go ahead and plant the new tree. Out here you put PVC pipe and probably one over here, and you can put a third one. Maybe in this situation you can only have 2 on the sides. And what will happen is the PVC pipe, it is open at the end, and you can make it to a point where it is perforated all the way down. Mine is open at the end, and I put a grate at the end of it. Dirt doesn't get up in there, and I put a grate at the top. The grate at the top will be right at the ground level, or just below the grass line. So when I mow, I don't hit it. And then you can water through that, and it will draw the root away from concrete or a sidewalk or a street. So deep root watering is another way to control the root system and the amount of water it gets as well, besides the mulch. So we have up in the top right, we have a straw up here that's used as well. So that's a good organic material. We'll talk more about this drip system that's in there. We'll talk about that when we get into irrigation, which is a great way to go as far as I'm concerned. Out in here in Texas, you have to have a little higher volume of drip or run it more often, but we'll talk more about that. And this looks like this might be a cabbage of some type over in this, probably a vegetable garden. It almost looks like a rabbit's ear over there. Here we have also the mulch is used in a walkway area with these paving stones. So another weed control here. Now I don't know if they ran a weed cloth through here or not, but it is a type of weed control. So let me I didn't want to do that. Go back to here for a second. I hear the chat going on, and I want to get back to see what's comments are on here. Let's see, is that slide, James? You can't see the cursor. Okay, so maybe I'm back to regular presentation. I'll show you the cursor now. Looking at the slides, same here. All right, so looking at the slide. Okay, the whole time, great. All right, I'll back up to that. And this is the last slide you guys saw, correct? Or still seeing now? Sorry about that. So there's a link here if you guys want to click on it, and go ahead and see how mulch was made. I did verbalize it and talk a little bit about it on that from that website. Here we talked about what the mulch is for weed control, for moisture control, and for adding nutrients to the soil. And here's where I was gabbing on about the deep root watering and the other applications for soil. Well, are you guys caught up now? You guys are behind. What's wrong with you guys? Sorry about that. You guys see this slide now, okay? Hopefully. Okay, thanks, James. All right, Eric, thanks. Perfect. So this is where I was left off. I was talking about the deep root watering, putting the PVC pipes with rain caps, something out in this area. Again, this would be to draw the root system in a different direction. The pipes I put in are probably about 24 to 30 inches long, going down in here. Again, just putting it right where you could see the cap, but not where your mower is going to hit it as well. So it's a little bit of a challenge on that. Again, the landscape material of weed cloth that you put down here comes in different varieties. And again, there's some theories on the best way to mulch around a tree that we'll get into a little bit later. Yes, James, again, yes, that deep root watering helps direct or pull the roots in a certain direction. As everybody probably knows out here in Texas, the oaks are very deep root. They seek out water at the either water table or looking at, they go very deep. They don't typically go shallow unless you're in a real arid area, but they don't go shallow for seeking out water. They go deep. So it's very easily on oaks. We have red buds on the side of the house where I did this next to the driveway. I wanted to make sure the root system was pulled away from the drive as well. So yes, so that is a method to water the roots, but to direct them as well. Within this, we have the mulch used here, as I was just started talking about when I found out you guys weren't seeing anything. Use it on this walkway. It's good, again, for weed control. I don't know if they put a weed cloth down and then the mulch. Can't tell from this. But I will tell you that I had two, I've used weed cloth in numerous places, which works well. Nothing against that, but when I used the cedar mulch for the first time in my vegetable garden with no weed cloth, it really controlled the weeds. I mean, I had one or two popping up through the season, a week. Nothing bad, nothing sporadic, but I didn't have to go through the cost of weed cloth. I don't know if it was a cedar mulch or just mulch in general, but it did a really good job on weed control alone. So just a heads up on that. All right, so here we see another application. You can see the difference in elevation from this planter area down to this ground area. So I'm sure they have backfilled with a lot of soil, but that's probably that mulch looks like a cedar as well. It's probably pretty thick there. And you can see it looks like he has a landscape cloth here, and that's probably to retain soil and the mulch from running between the rocks, because I'm guessing there's no mortar of any kind to hold those rocks together. They're just big placed boulders, not that they're going to shift any big degree. But again, he did put a weed cloth in, and I'm thinking it's not more for erosion control than for weed control on that. You can see a slight edging strip here that they're using. The problem with these types of boulders, if that grass gets up into the crevices, if the maintenance is not kept up on it, that will create a maintenance problem. So it's one of the downsides. I mean, if you like that type of boulders, I mean, I think it's really nice to have natural shape like this. First house we moved out here in Texas, there was a huge field behind us. It's under power lines and stuff. They're not going to build on there. We found some really nice large rocks that we lined the front with back there, and something similar on a front planter bed, not as long as this. So you can see some different applications with the landscaping. You can see the different types of plants back here as well. These look pretty immature plants, like they planted just very recently, and they're waiting for them to expand and take over. Don't forget groupings of odd number threes or fives or sevens make it more eye appealing. I don't know, they have another one of these. It looks like some kind of cypress there. I don't know if they have additional ones back in this area or not. So the mulch here is going to help retain the moisture, help in the wintertime, and it's also going to help with the erosion control in this scenario here. Here's some pine needle. I've never used these. In the mountains of California, they have a lot of pines. I know in East Texas, they have a lot of pines as well. Even in our neighborhood, there are a few pines around here, which I'm really surprised that they do that well. But you would need a lot of pine needles to establish something like this type of mulching. I don't really favor it. It looks almost like it's taking over, but they may be preparing for a harsh winter. As you can see, it looks like it may be just at the end of fall by this tree here and by the lack of leaves here. So maybe that's one way of preparing for a colder winter. Just another example of mulching. So when you get into the decorative mulching, you can also integrate it, maybe with some rocks, as we saw in the not the previous, but this slide here, integrated with different rocks. So we talked about texture as well. So color, texture is all important in the landscape designing. Here we have, the reds. Looks like it may be a type of begonia fern back here, which I'm surprised. There's a neighborhood next to us. it's some larger homes, and a lot of them I do think they have landscape maintenance companies. But one or two of the homes in different areas of the yard have ferns. In fact, one of them they have these driveways that go in the backyard. They have these nice gates that open up into their driveway, and the garage is to the back of the house. And one of these houses has potted ferns all along the fence, completely exposed to the sun. So I don't know how the heck they're growing ferns, but I was really surprised to see them out here. But they will work out here if they're in the right soil condition and, of course, watering and sun exposure. So the red begonias here, it looks like a begonia type. They're tying it in with the red mulch here, and doing a contrast of the rocks here and a contrast of this type of color. Works okay, I guess. I don't know. How many of you like what you see on this photo? Is it appealing to you, or like for me, is it a little bit disturbing? The show of hands or comments. James Meek says it's okay. Yeah, it doesn't like rock your socks off. Any other comments on it? Just how it just kind of hits you at first when you see it. Jesse, help me on that. MEH is at best. I'm good on the that's not slang, but the shorthand terminology. James again says, I think the mulch should be a different color. Okay, yeah, very, very possibly. Jesse, I'm not sure on the MEH. Medium, something at best. Mediocre at best. I don't know. I'm just guessing on that, Jesse. So yeah, that's kind of how it hits me. Jesse, if that M is for mediocre. Yeah. And I always look at it a lot as maintenance. Iman says, can sand be used as a mulch? Great question. I think if it's controlled, you notice on this rock here, they have two borders to contain that. So if you have a special, because sand comes in different colors and different textures to it. So there again, I really don't have a huge comment on that, which way. I almost have to see it used. But I think it's not going to add a lot of nutrients to the soil. I know in some cases they add sand and other nutrients to types of soil to help it loosen up a lot. So Iman, that's a great question. I'm not sure. You might do a little research if you want to use something like that. Like I said, they use different colors of sand. One of the things I would be a little more fearful of, and this happens to mulch as well, it could be just sand, but the winds we get will dry a lot of these mulches, including sand. It will distribute it in different areas, and that's why you lose a lot of the mulch in your mulch beds or in your garden beds, because wind will be a big factor in that as well. So great question, Iman, on that. I'm not sure. The way this hits me is I always look at it as maintenance. And so as soon as that water, if you take a garden hose, or it could even be the sprinklers, take those two colors, different colors of mulches, I got a feeling that eventually you're going to get a mixture going on here and end up with a third color. That's one thing. Rocks are retained with this border strip here, which is fine. So edging isn't too much of a problem on that. But if my edger picked up one of those rocks and hurled it at my shin, which happens quite frequently with even small rocks, it's not the most delightful feeling. So I'm always looking at maintenance as well. I like what they did with the plants here. They've tiered these plants. They have some different textures in the plants. I think it was creative. One other thing is, I'm not sure, it almost looks like the mulch, I don't know if it was just mounted here or it stops here. So, what are they trying to do here? Is it, retaining moisture only here? For what reason? not sure. So I think any landscape design is open for opinion and looking at it and how it makes you feel. It goes back to texture, colors, and one of the things we cannot see or experience are the smells of the different plants. And so I forgot who commented about allergies in the class, but that's another consideration as well. All right, so we start looking on how to apply the mulch. Here it does say the mulch should not come in contact with the trunk, and it definitely should not be mounted up like that. You're going to get too much water retention here, and it may not be retention at the root ball, but it may be down in the base off to the sides here. So it could end up in root rot. Here they're using it more as a trough area, so water can hit directly onto the tree as well. So different thoughts, applications on that. Here they're indicating for straw, how much straw you put down, and they're looking at the different levels, suggestions on how to best take care of the plants and how have them thrive at the same time. All right, so that is it on mulches. Any additional comments or questions on that as I move to our next topic here? No comments. Wow. Not here. All right, James, again, thank you. And I'm just opening up the lessons for today. All right. Pretty simple. Mulch is, is simplified. Javier says, how much mulch is too much mulch? I recommend if you read any of the bags or a little research it. It's a 3-inch to 4-inch covering. So one of the things I have not figured out, can you mulch on top of mulch? Because the mulch does deteriorate, it does break down, and should be ending up being a compost. But I do see some advisement to pull out all the old mulch and put in new mulch. So there again, about 3 to 4 inches on that. That's kind of the rule I kind of stay with. We have a little unique situation here. Our house sits just slightly on a slight incline, and then we have a brick planter bed around the front. And to really see the mulch at all, to give it that color and texture on the street as you're driving by, that mulch has to be a little bit higher than the planter bed, brick planter bed in the front. So I usually start probably about 5 inches, 5 to 6 inches in the back, and then it tapers down to about 3 or 2 inches by the time I hit that front lip of the planter, the brick planter. So not a hard rule, Javier, on that, but for good retention, I would say at least 3 inches of mulch in there. All right. Look at packet number 2. I don't know what my wife did. She's just pulling up. I don't know where she went, but the rodent upstairs is quiet. So I don't know if it got out or it's just respectful of the class. All right, number 2. All right, so I went over to number 2. You're welcome, Javier. I went over to the lessons for this week, and I'm not going to go over them because I know you guys have read through this. There were a lot of good questions yesterday on them. I received a few emails in addition to the questions on there. But I just want to make sure or see and check with you again to see if there are any questions on this week's assignment, and make sure that you have, before you ask the questions, I just ask this kindly, that make sure you review the videos. I don't know if my YouTube channel is accessible. If you just go to I don't know what you would even go to. I don't even know how to access that. And I don't know much about channels. I'm still learning all this. But I have so many videos posted on different topics in there that might be helpful to you as well. Just to let you know, I read the evaluations from our last semester class, 1305, and some of the comments on there were very helpful. But one of the comments that I really did appreciate from a number of students was that the videos were helpful, taking kind of a small segment of assignments or the assignment and a small segment of that assignment and breaking it down on a video. So if I'm just going to open up right now, and if you guys can get your thinking caps on for a second, are there any videos that I have not posted that you would like to see something of, that there's a issue that you're having with either the class material that you don't quite get, that you'd like to see a video on, or AutoCAD, that something might be stuck on AutoCAD. I haven't got a lot of CAD questions. You guys are seasoned, you're advanced students, so you know AutoCAD very well. A couple of them came up yesterday during lecture, I think, yesterday. But are there any videos, anything that you'd like to see broken down a little more besides the ones I've already posted? Throw that question out real quick. And if you don't want to put it in the chat, you can always send me an email with that as well for a request on that. And then if I already have one of it made, I'll just send you the link on that. If not, if I get enough requests for it, I can go ahead and make another video. All right. I think that wraps that up. And one thing I just saw here, let me just check the 100. So you can see the points possible is probably incorrect. 150. That should be 200, and I will change that. Points possible will be 200. All right. No comments or questions? Okay, I guess we're good. Go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and wrap this lecture up, and then you'll go into your lab time. So it's almost 1:30. Come back at 1:40, and we will go back into lecture and then into lab time after that. All right, I'm going to step out for a second to grab some more tea and check on the rodent and what my wife to get that quiet, and I will be back at 1:40.